And then you don't realize like when the prices keep like when there's price creep, right? And starts going up and things like that.
Yeah, actually that is a good point because last time, when you take out like a $10 note at a hawker, it's like, wait.
Oh, I'm baller today.
Yeah, what's going on? Am I buying for 2 people or something?
Yeah.
Whereas a $5 note felt like the staple.
Yeah.
But now whether you key in 560 or 920, it's the same.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is probably a contributing thing also where people then they get the sticker shock that oh shit, the prices now is like this .
Before the next episode of the Yalla Butt podcast, here's a little message from Folklory. It's Father's Day on 16 June, and over the years you may have given him gifts like a meal or even a holiday. But if you want something different this time, what about the experience of going down memory lane with him? Because this Father's Day, we're offering a special Folklory. We'll interview both your dad and you at the same time. Our interviewer will ask him about his life, his experiences, or even stuff you've wanted to know about him. And we guarantee that it will be special. Because after recording hundreds of Folklories, a lot of them with elderly guests as well, we've heard so many of them tell us that the experience of recording can be even more valuable than the final product itself. Think about it. Your parents have so many stories to tell, but how often do you actually ask them about it? And if you're wondering how it'll sound like, here's a clip from a Folklory with an 82-year-old dad.
Do you have any memories of what school was like?
Yes, my wonderful days in school is Gunning Singh.
And why was it wonderful?
I suppose I was very comfortable in that school. I felt I belonged to that school. I felt wanted. I felt useful. I felt I contributed, and I think I ended up being a prepared guy. I was given certain responsibilities as well.
So that was in the 1950s.
50s, 40s, late 40s. The Japanese war and the Japanese time. I mean, I could hear bomb coming. My father had a shop along Blasphemous Road.
You could hear the bombs.
Yes, I mean this is my recollection.
Yeah.
Later, helped by the movies that.
Yeah.
I presume all that helped.
Yeah.
We'll do the recordings remotely like we always do, but you can be right there next to him. Perhaps even enjoying the fact that you don't have to ask the questions. So if you want to gift your dad this experience, order by 7th June to guarantee a recording slot on or around Father's Day. Just head on to folklory.com to find out more. And if you've got questions, you can also chat with us on WhatsApp. The links are all in the show notes, so we hope you check them out. And now, on to the podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yalla, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man.
Yeah.
How was your weekend, man?
Pretty interesting. I spent it in JB mostly.
With Tan Kin Lian.
With Tan Kin Lian, hanging out at Forest City, talking about politics.
What a way to spend the weekend.
No. Just a regular, very Singaporean in JB kind of weekend. I tried my best to resist just saying, everything's so cheap as I walked around everywhere. But the reality was that, because of the currency and everything just felt a lot cheaper.
Were you pointing at things?
No, but I had the reverse sticker shock of like ordering, at a restaurant. And then when the bill comes, then I do the mental math in my head. I'm like, wow, so cheap. That kind of thing. Yeah. Constantly it happened.
Why is it the reverse shock? That's the regular shock. Right?
When they say sticker shock, usually it's like all the hidden costs that add up, your 8%, your 9% GST service charge, blah, blah, everything. Then you get a shock at the end, right?
Yeah,
that's what sticker shock refers to. But this one, I had the reverse of it. Oh my God, we ate so much, I'm nearly going to puke up my dinner now, and it was so cheap.
Yeah. I remember I felt that also when I went to KL over December.
Yeah.
And you try not to make it obvious.
Yeah.
Of course, when I met some of my cousins there, I would rub it in their face. But in general, you try not to make it obvious.
I think it pisses people off, right?
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
But why does it piss people off if I mean, back then, Singapore, before it has become the city that it is today, I'm sure foreigners also came to Singapore and this is so cheap, that's so cheap. I remember I had some distant relatives who all in the 80s, 90s, they rushed to Singapore. I mean, when they came to Singapore, they rushed to go and buy Super Nintendo or the game consoles. And I was like, is it that much cheaper elsewhere. But I didn't feel offended or anything. But what do you think people are offended now?
You wouldn't like, you think, let's say if you were older because back then maybe you were young and still full of optimism, unlike the Terrans of 2024 right? If someone just came and said, hey, wow, your country is damn cheap, no?
Yeah.
Everything is damn cheap, it's awesome. You wouldn't piss you off? It'll piss me off,
No, not that bad.
No,
not that bad.
Like why I would feel annoyed is that then you're almost coming to exploit us. And I think most people, I assume, would not like to be referred to as cheap.
Yeah.
And then it just feels very transactional. Like you're coming, it's always nice when people come and say, oh, I love the Singapore culture. I don't know whether many people come and say that.
Yeah.
Or like, wow, the Singapore this. But if it's the cheapness of Singapore, right, I'll be like, there's more to our country than that. Yeah.
I mean, but our hawker food is cheap, right?
Yeah,
it is
correct.
cheap and quite relevant to what we're talking about later. So,
yeah.
But like certain things, like if you go to a European country, for example, wine is very cheap, right? Alcohol, a lot of these things are very cheap compared to what you pay in Singapore.
Yeah.
Or even some other places, right?
Yeah.
So it runs both ways. In some.
But I'm sure if you go to a European country and you go to the vineyard, you're like, wow, this is damn cheap, no, bro. This rosé, wow, fucking cheap, man. I'm sure they also will be like, I mean, like, it's not all cheap, and it's cheap not because we are low quality, it's because the grapes are grown here and all. You try. Next time, if you ever go to an overseas vineyard, you're like, hey, wow, this is damn cheap.
And then start pouring in Coke and then drinking it like as a shot or something.
Shandy, like a shandy. I'm sure, I'm sure they would be pissed.
Yeah. So, I wasn't very sure, like, what the etiquette was, right? To walk around, like, big swinging balls, like, wow, Singaporean bull in a China shop kind of thing. Buy everything, order, just order.
But you think you had an aura of Singaporean?
I mean, I stick out like a sore thumb, I'm sure.
But got other Chinese people in Malaysia also.
Correct, but it's just the way you walk around, carry yourself and all that, I think. Very swaku looking Singaporean.
Yeah.
Singaporeans generally very sheltered looking and we do very obviously kind of silly things like that. The way we drive or the way we don't take care of our stuff when we leave it lying around and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I think there's something about a Singaporean abroad that you can tell. You can tell. I don't know what it is, but you can tell.
Yeah. I remember the person, our Grab driver, was telling us that, you think if you get caught by the police, like speeding or something like that, you think you Singaporeans can get away with like just paying the, couple $100, couple hundred ringgit fine. They'll know you're Singaporean out and out. Not just from your car, just from the way you behave and everything.
And the way you react,
Yeah.
The way you react.
Yeah.
And some of you can't speak Malay. Like my Malay is broken Malay, but I can still try.
Correct. So it was just like, interesting. It's really just 5 minutes from us, but a world apart.
A world apart.
Yeah.
Spoken like a true elitist.
Yeah, not in a bad way, in a good way. I find it in a good way, But living there, I think, is a very different thing from visiting.
Yeah. I just think that Singapore and JB and Malaysia have to work out some agreement where we get some of JB.
Yeah. I mean, in this day and age, like you say this kind of thing is very
okay, yes.
Going on.
That's true.
This,
No, that's true. I like a muitual agreement, where we mutually benefit each other. There's a lot of consensual. There's a lot of synergy and all that. Because JB is huge, man.
Yeah. But there's this feeling of like, like
untapped.
No, this like we're all kindred spirits, right? Singapore and JB, we're so close together by proximity. Literally, like you can look at each other's house across the water, right?
Yeah.
So there needs to be some more exchange between the two sides,
Yeah. I wonder if any Malaysians listening to this, when you hear them, hear us be referred to as kindred spirits, right? Like, shut up, okay? You Singaporean, you just come here, eat our food, fill up on petrol and all that.
Yeah. Correct. But I mean, it's very relevant to what we're talking about today, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The concept of cost and everything in Singapore as well.
Yeah. But before that, just wanted to give an update on something we teased last week. And what's that, Terrence?
We teased the live recording, our live show,
Yeah.
the Yalabat show, that will be happening on 8th of June at a certain bar. And I
Yeah.
think we can talk
Can say-
openly
yeah, I can
about the
say
bar,
now.
right? Do you want to say what it is?
Yeah, it is a Monk's Brew Club along East Coast Road. And I think the last time we teased like a secret link. Now we are coming out with the link because there's just a handful of tickets left. It's going to be happening on Saturday night, 8th June at 7:30 p.m.
Yeah.
where we are going to record a Yalabat episode. And as an attendee, you can expect a couple of things. You know, you might have a part to play in us deciding what we're going to talk about. And you're going to get to enjoy a free drink with a ticket. It could be a cocktail or a mocktail. And the idea for both of them are based on things we have made fun of on the podcast.
Yeah.
So it's really a custom Yalabat cocktail / mocktail.
Yeah.
And that comes all with the ticket, which is priced at $30.
And to
$30
clarify,
for a
it's
good
not that.
time.
Yeah, clarify, we're not mixing the drinks ourselves.
Yeah. We're not.
We're working with the very talented bartenders at Monk's Brew Club. They do cocktails, custom cocktails. And they came up, we went to them with a few like interesting themes of what we talk about on the podcast. I think they also listened to the podcast. And they came up with these beautiful concoctions of cocktails, concoctions of cocktails that reflect what Yalabat is about. And it's included in the price of entry for this one night. Right?
Good clarification. It's not just me, Terrence, Dom, and Tristan just trying to mix some shit together. It's legit cocktails. All right. And for those who can't or don't want to drink alcohol, there are mocktail versions. So 7:30 at night on Saturday. Just a handful of tickets left. It's going to be a very intimate recording. So hope to see you all there. The link is in the show notes. Cool.
That's right.
And then as always, if you enjoy this podcast, it'd be great if you could share it with people. Follow us on social media for all our updates. If you're wherever you're listening, if you can click on the button now to subscribe or follow, do that. And if you want to work with us, where should they check us out, Terrence?
Ministryoffunny.com. Make sure you spell it out. Yeah, ministryoffunny.com.
2 Fs. Cool, man.
Cool.
All right.
So, talking about prices.
Prices
of stuff in
Singapore.
Our serious topic kind of is all about that. The prices of hawker food. And what about the prices of hawker food?
So according to a new study by the Singapore Department of Statistics known as SingStat, hawker food prices rose by 6.1% in 2023, which is the highest year-on-year increase since 2008. So for example, chicken rice in 2023 was $4.15, up from $3.40 in 2019. And a bowl of mee rebus went up from $3.26 to $3.79 in the same period. So I mean, it's an interesting study. A lot of comments online. But when you saw this, right, what came to mind, Terrence? The headline, hawker food prices rose by 6.1% in 2023, but cost pressures are easing.
I found that the headline kind of I think you can dissect the headline a bit more. That what they're trying to say is that the prices rose a lot, right, over the year, but the rate of increase is slowing down, right? But overall, it still means the prices are still going up, and very much bears itself out in the day-to-day lived experience for people. I think in Singapore, the cost of going to a hawker or kopitiam or something has gone up, and I think unless you're living under a rock and you don't eat at any of these places, the prices really have gone up quite significantly. Centers. And it's this headline kind of makes it puts a little flour on the pig, but it's still a pig, right?
Flour on the pig, but
lipstick on the pig. Lipstick on the pig.
Is that a saying?
Yeah, you can put lipstick on the pig, but it's still pig.
I mean, I think it doesn't feel like it's the most complete, and to a certain extent doesn't really cover it fully, which of course they go on to explain in the article. They talk about the cost pressures having since eased. So for example, I think because all this is based on the consumer price index that is collected every month through a pretty somewhat a rigorous process, which you can go into. But because they measure month on month, the inflation peaked at 2020 February, 8.3%, and it fell to 4.1% in December. So what they're kind of saying that, okay, COVID and the cost of raw materials, raw ingredients all increased, but it has since eased. So talking about commodities, cereals, meat, dairy, all the prices have gone down. So they and they also shared some perspectives from the hawkers themselves, just explaining why it's tough to keep prices low. They talked about the rent, and they said it's not the sole determiner of how much food costs.
Yeah.
So it's a very high level thing, but it feels like at the end of the day it's meant to communicate the message that, okay, prices are increasing. Prices increase a lot, but they are not going to increase that much.
Increase at a slower pace.
Increase at a slower rate.
Yeah. How does that make you feel when you hear the overall message like that?
In some way it is downplaying a very real thing that we are all feeling.
Yeah.
And I think hawker food, coffee shops, no matter what socio-economic tier you come from in Singapore, chances are you interact with it in some way. The impact of it might be different, but this one just feels like it's like sweeping something under the carpet that is really a big issue.
As in, what do you mean sweeping under the carpet?
Like because it was, the whole message was, the cost pressures are easing and all that. It feels like, okay, the main way this article was written was to kind of tell people, acknowledge the truth, but calm them down. And I think it didn't do enough to calm people down.
Yeah.
Or at least calm me down. So that's what I felt.
Yeah.
For you?
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I think I see online a lot of people are getting pretty upset about the headline, right? And stating that in their estate or in their own experience, the increases are much more than 6%. And then, they bring up anecdotes of like my Thai peng or my chicken rice has gone up like $1, $1.50, which is more than 6%, right? But the interesting thing is that people are also in those same threads are reminding others that yours is a one data point, right?
Yeah.
But this is across an average of based on a lot of different places in Singapore, right?
Yeah.
So and it's across a different range of food and stuff like that as well, So just to keep in mind, that whatever your own personal experiences are with cost price of your hawker food increasing, might not be reflected for someone else living in a different estate and everything.
So on that note, right, how the CPI info is collected. So every month, the Department of Statistics Singapore, I guess Singstat, it compiles prices across 6,800 brands or varieties of goods and services from 4,200 outlets. So they do it by scraping data from websites, and I think they make it clear that it's with the website's consent, Then there are postal or email inquiries, info from National Environment Authority, the NEA, where they actually have a lot of data of what people are paying.
Yeah.
And also people like interviewers actually going out to consolidate all the info. So it feels like a pretty rigorous effort.
Yeah.
And I think just echoes like what you said, like what you experience personally might not be the average thing.
Yeah.
But that being said, when you think about your own personal experience, of course it's all an anecdote. Do you think 6.1% sounds accurate?
I mean, my own experience is that sounds on the very low end.
Yeah, it does.
Because it feels like with GST, with all the increases during COVID because of global supply shortages, right? It almost feels like everything has gone up. Every single dish that you buy has gone up from 50 cents to $1 in price on average.
Yeah.
The drinks also all tend towards the higher end of the cheapest ones like $1.70, $1.80 already. When back in the day it was less than $1.50.
Yeah.
And you start to feel the compound effects more as you're buying for your family, for example, or you're buying for a group of friends or whatnot, right? then you start to, that shit starts to add up, lah, and then you feel it a lot more.
Yeah.
So maybe for me also, there's that double that effect, lah, through COVID, having an additional mouth to feed as well in the family.
Yeah.
It just all that just starts to feel a lot more burdensome, lah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think last time I do recall in my mind, psychologically, I was like, okay, if I go to a hawker center, if I just want the food, it'd be less than $5.
Yeah.
If I want an additional drink, it's like $1.50.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, right, if you think you're going to go to a food court and spend less than $5, or even a coffee shop, less than $5, it's damn hard, no?
It's impossible, yeah.
Yeah.
Next to impossible.
Next to impossible. Which is why, right, like when you look at a report, I mean, the only report that I could find online was under the statistics of Singapore and like a 5-page PDF where they give more info in the article about, the breakdown of what percentage share of expenditure on food does hawker centers and food courts and coffee shops cover and all that. And then they talk about the main drivers of hawker food inflation. So the funny thing was, like, there was no mention of GST. So that's what I find a bit weird. Because, I mean, it's almost, by putting GST, I feel like there is you can almost anchor, that did cause some increase.
Yeah.
But by not acknowledging it, is it because they don't want to put the impact of GST as part of this? I don't know. Like, it just it feels like I'm not so sure why there was no mention of GST at all.
I don't know about GST, but the bigger thing was there was in the article, at least on the Straits Times.
Yeah.
The discussion of rental seemed to be more towards the end of the article, as opposed to a main focus of the crux of the article. Because I think that is one big cost, right, that we all know has gone up in recent years, with kopitiams also being sold for millions, $40 million for kopitiam and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The only way to make back those kind of investments is to raise rent, right? So yeah, those are generally very when every time news like that comes out, it comes across in front of us on Yalabat, right? And we talk about it as isolated incidents, right?
Yeah.
But if these isolated incidents are happening more than once, there's a pattern to it, right? It shows that rent generally will be going up,
Yeah.
And so it was. I think some people also online were also saying that they're not. This article doesn't talk about one of the big elephant in the room, which is rising rents, in Singapore.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, I just looked at KF Seetoh's Facebook page. I mean, he's like a big activist for hawker culture and preservation of hawker, and he is just shitting on the article like as of 12 years ago. So I mean,
12 years ago.
12 hours. Yeah, sorry.
Wow, for 12 years. But he has been crusading on this issue.
I'm sure 12 years ago also he got . So he was just saying that the stats, they don't clearly reflect the actual feeling on the ground. And he pointed out that certain parts of the article mentioned that, the veteran hawker stalls, they are not keen to hand over because they are, I think that was in the print version, which is the other article that was published a few days ago. Also, 7 hawkers joined succession scheme in 2 years. Others cite lack of incentives to join, where they talked about how hawkers, a lot of them, instead of just handing over, they also want to pay out.
Yeah.
So I think KF Seetoh took issue with a focus on that, almost like at the same time as this stats, because it paints these hawkers as almost being greedy,
Yeah.
Which, I mean, like, fuck, man, they've been toiling for years, so it is not greedy at all. And the hawker succession program, only 7. I think it was first, it's not the newest thing, not like a few months only, only 7. And then they talked about the average rent for hawkers being like 1,250, right, across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, all this feels like, maybe that's why there's a bit of like, wait, is this really the full truth? And like just now when I mentioned the GST, it is definitely not mentioned in the article, but even in the report available online, there is no mention of it.
Yeah.
So it just feels like, okay, how is that not possible? In fact, if you put it there, I feel it kind of like gives a fuller picture. And then because the moment you have a question like that, then you're like, hey, shit, what else is not being part of this?
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, the 6% I think most people's experience would be that sounds very low, right?
Yeah, because 6% on like $5
Yeah.
is like 30 cents.
30 cents, yeah.
Where was that?
It doesn't feel like 30 cents.
Yeah.
But overall, like, I mean, but there are also people in the same discussion threads, who are saying that we are already underpaying for hawker food.
Yeah.
Or at least the expectation that hawker food should be cheap is a thing of the past. This is the new world we live in. And Singaporeans have been paying subsidized prices for hawker food for the longest times. And that's why the hawker trade is dying also.
Yeah.
Because we insist that, it has to be cheap, affordable, and taste good also. And there's no way that's possible with the increase of all the prices and all.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a valid discussion at this point?
I think that is a valid discussion. And just to clarify, just now when we said the 6.1%, that was only a 1 year jump. Across the board, it has been increasing.
Yeah.
So the absolute number of percentage increase from like 2019 to 2023 is more than 6.1%. But I guess our point is that it feels like even like 30%.
Yeah.
Right. But going back to what you said, I think it's a worthwhile discussion now. You?
I've always thought that, we subsidize our hawker food. And over the years, so many years, we've been subsidizing. We've been paying very low prices for hawker food, basically.
Yeah.
And it becomes this expectation that hawker food must be cheap. That is a defining feature of hawker food, it being cheap, which I think is also, I mean, anyone working in any kind of job these days, they demand salary increase, AWS, 13-month, all this kind of thing. But then for hawker food, when there's a jump in prices because of whatever reasons, right? People get so riled up about it, right?
Yeah.
But I do think the base we already pay very, very low rates for hawker food. So there is an adjustment also taking place based on everything going around us.
Yeah.
And somewhere in that vicinity of like $8, like if I go to a hawker center or what, like I feel like you have to walk in with a $10 note. You can't walk in with a $5 note or $2 last time. And that's also one thing that when we've gone cashless, right, sometimes you don't think about balancing a budget so much, like how much cash I have. So I think of that a lot for my kid also, right, in terms of like they don't use cash these days, right? Or at least in the future, there's not going to be much cash. So in terms of budgeting, how are they going to like think about budgeting? Everything's just cashless. Or sometimes you can't even see how much you're spending based on that, or you don't even look, right? And then you don't realize like when the prices keep, like when there's price creep, right, and starts going up and things like that.
Yeah, actually that is a good point, because last time, when you take out like a $10 note at a hawker, it's like, wait.
Oh, I'm baller today.
Yeah, what's going on? Am I buying for 2 people or something?
Yeah.
Whereas a $5 note felt like the staple.
Yeah.
But now whether you key in 560 or 920, is the same.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is probably a contributing thing also, where people then they get the sticker shock that oh shit, the prices now is like this .
Yeah, because you think about the denominations of our notes, we have 2, we have 5, then it jumps to 10 already, right?
Yeah.
So if you were using cash, the jump from 5 to 10 always feel like this very big thing, right? Now you have to use a $10 note rather than a 5.
And even a drink, you can't just go with a $2 note to get a drink.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Unlikely. Like there's no. Yeah, it's not certain that you can get a cold kopi peng or something for less than $2.
Yeah. So all these things all factor into how we, the increase in prices and inflation, everything. It's just this thing that we all feel, but we can't place an exact finger on it.
But that's why it's weird the angle they took, because another thing also, I think it was pointed out online, that the progressive wage model for food services and workers kicked in 1st March 2023. So essentially all employers must meet the requirements in order to renew existing work passes or apply for new work passes. So this might not apply to every hawker stall, but if you're talking about averages, there will definitely be people impacted by this. But this also was not mentioned in the report.
Yeah.
So that's why it feels like the angle this article and report is taking is like trying to talk about things that are outside of Singapore policy, which feels very weird.
Yeah.
Because I would imagine if you kind of like, if the thing is like, okay, we all want to preserve hawker culture, right? I don't think anybody would argue against that. But it comes at a cost.
Yep.
And this is what everybody is going to have to, yes, the government will subsidize rents, but the reality must hit lah. But this one it feels like it's like masking the reality lah. And I think the reality, if people know that okay, if we want to preserve culture, we cannot expect low prices. If that is the thing that we keep hearing more and more, right, might be easier to stomach lah.
Possibly.
Yeah, because now it's like I think when Desmond Lee also was here, we asked him a question, right? Like, why? Like, is it a good thing to always, keep hammering home that every Singaporean will be able to afford a house everywhere, as opposed to like, okay, you want to live near the city, you're gonna have to pay a lot more.
Yeah.
His answer to that, I recall, was like, to make sure that there is a mix across socio-economic tiers, all around Singapore lah. But for food, I think it's a bit different lah.
Yeah.
Right. You won't be like, okay, I'm only going to get food from Kallang because it's near the city.
Yeah. I mean, and food's something you interact with viscerally.
Yeah.
3 times a day. Right?
Yeah.
So you're constantly reminded of the price increase also lah, right?
Yeah.
When you spend money there. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's this article. So would you say it's a fault of the ST, or they're not going deep enough with the discussion, or it's just the study, or what whose fault is it? I mean, KF Seetoh straight out says, "Hey ST, if your team has no expertise and knowledge on the deep-seated struggles and issues of hawker trade, stay away from writing about it lah." Yeah. So he directly calling out ST lah. But for you, what do you think it is?
I think it's a combination of both. Like, okay, I don't know how extensive the report is, like whether there's anything apart from this 5-pager that I really tried to look, and this was all I could find.
Yeah.
I know SingStat, the website, you can build your own tables and models and stuff like that. So there's a lot of info out there. But if this is the extent of the report, then it feels a bit, it is not, or maybe actually, no, I take that back. I think SingStat, they collect data, right? And they are doing their job to calculate the CPI. But I would imagine if you want to write an article based on that, it will be on Straits Times to think about the other effects of other things that could have contributed to the cost. Because I don't think SingStat is their prerogative to include stuff like GST and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it would be, so maybe it is on the people who cover this and write these articles.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the stats are the stats, right?
Yeah.
But how you interpret the stats and make a headline out of it. I think that's what KF Seetoh is ranting about here, right? In the sense that it seems to almost be like victim blaming in some ways, where it's almost painting the hawkers as being greedy for not taking up the succession plan and all that, right? But as opposed to doing a deeper dive into what exactly the price increases were attributed to, or were supposed to have come from, right?
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, he's probably a bigger proponent of we need to pay our hawkers more also. So I don't think he's totally against the idea of hawker prices going up is a necessary thing, right? But it's just how it's packaged as an article. I think that's what he has an issue with.
Yeah. And he did say, we so need a hawker institute. Can you imagine a hawker institute? Wow, fucking dope, man, like that.
It should, I think given that our hawker culture is a UNESCO cultural heritage thing, we should celebrate it and almost make a museum out of it. One of the things in I saw when I was traveling in Korea was the idea of the Hanyo divers, which are these female divers who they dive for conch shells in Jeju Island, which is surrounded by this conch shells. I think in the early 2000s, they've been doing it for maybe the last 100 years or something. But in the 2000s, they finally made it an official thing, and then they got it recognized by UNESCO World Heritage Organization, etc., as a cultural heritage thing that Korea can be very proud of. And they created a museum out of it. It's become part of their tourism culture and all that. But not in Singapore. We have this UNESCO cultural heritage thing that ultimately people are still, we're still sitting here talking about it needing to be a low-cost thing to feed Singaporeans. And, it's not celebrated in the way that we hope that it should be shown to the world, right?
Yeah. Because I was just thinking, one thing, because, over the past year, I started to cook more, right?
Yeah.
I always feel it'd be so cool to understand, the hawkers and the woks and how they cook like that,
Yeah.
And it just feels like there's so much knowledge there. There's so much craftsmanship there. They just lost. I mean, like can you imagine Singapore? We have this line of woks,
Yeah.
that become like a brand name.
The hawker wok.
Yeah, like hawker, like verified by the hawkers, like a brand of woks or like cooking utensils, and like even how efficient hawkers can be in that tiny space, right?
Yeah.
Housing, like, so it is a thing, man.
Yeah. Like even just like what you said, like just understanding how they operate within the hawker stall, the history of how they've operated,
It's like craft, man.
I can totally see it as a museum by itself,
Yeah.
Like,
and you have like a day class where you go there, they have like a hawker center where you can play the role of a hawker.
Yeah.
And then like people eat and like, fuck, man, that sounds fun.
But maybe that will cost money, and then it will bring up hawker prices again.
No, part of the money is used to kind of like do more reports, like for the Hawker Institute to be to consolidate data that they feel is necessary, lah.
Which KF Seetoh says, all right, we need Hawker Institute to recognize the fact that it's important to Singapore, right? And he eggs on the hawkers to form your own independent hawker association and protect yourself. Yeah.
Hawkers, man.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, man.
It's a tough one to swallow. Like, just just as a consumer, it's tough one. Because what you're feeling out there as you patronize hawker center versus what you're reading here, very different experience, man. Different.
Very different.
Yeah. But yeah, talking about the high cost of everything, right? I wanted to just pull up the thing before.
Terrence, your segue time is counting down, Terrence.
We talk about food, when you talk about food, then I'm hungry. It all just like adds up. It just makes it harder for me. No, but the other thing is that the opportunity cost, right, of various things being discussed as well. Like what you just said, in terms of like if we set up Hawker Institute and then we use that money to do good for the hawkers, does it really nip the problem in the bud, right? And we're seeing that play out in this debate here between students and universities about whether they should be taking money from certain types of people to solve certain types of problems.
I mean, to be honest, the first half of the segue, I thought you were going to bring up a point that I thought we moved on from already.
Oh.
I thought you were extending the previous discussion.
No. I was just stalling.
That was a very extensive segue.
Yeah.
But yes, it is because the student activists. So this is the title on CNA, because I think like there's some things to unpack there also on CNA. We don't buy it in quotes. Student activists protest ExxonMobil's role in $60 million low carbon research lab at NTU. So basically, NTU has launched this lab with ExxonMobil, the oil and gas giant.
Yeah.
So it's a partnership between ExxonMobil, NTU, A-Star, and the National Research Foundation. And it was launched on 26 April by good old ex-sugar daddy Heng Swee Keat. The statement is that the lab will develop solutions that would help lower carbon emissions, contribute to resource efficiency, and help build a more sustainable future. But NTU Divests, the student activist group, has labeled it as a greenwashing project.
Yeah.
So when you saw this, Terrence, what do you want to talk about this?
But just to clarify, what does greenwashing mean?
So, I mean, from what I understand, it is projects to that make things that are not climate friendly, not environmentally friendly, seem a lot more environmentally friendly and socially conscious than they are.
Yeah.
So, like, if a company is doing some fucked up shit in the background, they have this one project that makes them seem like, we actually do care for the world. That is a greenwashing project.
Yeah. And some things in recent memory in Singapore have come to light, right? Like, I think there was a company that was supposedly recycling old shoes into the material that you used in playgrounds, the rubber on the playgrounds.
Yeah.
And then there was a study done that discovered that the shoes were not actually being recycled. They were being sent to Indonesia to be resold or something like that, right?
Correct.
So that was a big hoo-ha.
Yeah.
I would say medium-sized hoo-ha. I wouldn't say big. But this one is a much more public thing because it's a group of students coming together to make a statement and just saying that they don't buy into this whole partnership, right? And
Yeah.
but actually, when you read about this, like, do you feel like it's do you think it's just students being students, like making noise about something? Because I think you can. There's a lot going on in campuses, university campuses, in the West, right, in the US, making a lot of noise about. I mean, they're actually protesting a lot of what's happening in the Middle East and all that, right? Especially Israel's actions and all. And it's quite divided, right? Quite. The response to those student protests can be quite divided, do you feel that same kind of divisiveness when you read a headline like that?
Yeah, Terence, in the West, there is something called wokeness. And wokeness is a problem. No, like so when I read this, like, of course, yes, the students are being students, but I don't say that negatively. I think when you're a student, you feel like, wow, you can change the world. And I think students should feel that.
Yeah.
So when I see this, when I read it, I don't know how effective their efforts are going to be, but I actually like that they are putting a statement out and just being like something just poke
a little needle.
Needle. Yeah. You?
Yeah, I mean, because if you really look into what they're asking for, I think they're just asking, right, the most at the most basic level, they're asking there needs to be more transparency, more accountability. That means they need to know what is actually going on, what is being developed in this corporate lab and everything, which I think is a fair ask, right? Because there's a lot of corporate speak going on in terms of in the launch and everything, right? But what actually is happening? The money that is being pumped into this $60 million low carbon research lab, is that what is being developed, right? As opposed to that money going towards other forms, finding other forms of alternative forms of energy, right? So yeah, they're not like picketing or like sitting on the lawns of NUS and making noise. They are actually trying to demand more accountability for what is being discussed, which I think is a good thing.
Which is why the title, I say, it's something to unpack. The title is Student Activist Protest. I mean, when you hear the word protest, right, in this day and age, like, you would expect, oh shit, like, are they really? I thought when I read this, I was like, in front, where Sugar Daddy hang, with his, like, launching it. At the outside, they were like, no more Exxon. And then with like a little rhyme, but it was just some online post, right? And I mean, they do have an Instagram page. It's called NTU Divest, and they are all part of the Students for a Fossil-Free Future, S for F, which is a student-led campaign that urges Singaporean universities to transition away from their current partnerships with the fossil fuel industry and work towards a more just and livable future for all. So at first I thought it was a global thing, but no, it's like a coalition across the Singapore universities. And on their website, they have their own publications, donate, very student things, but I think it's good. It's a good thing. And like initially when I was reading the article, I just thought like, okay, like maybe they don't, like, they are being just a little too sensitive. But yeah, I think this is a little needle, right?
Yeah.
It's damn important. Of course, it's shaped by my own perspectives on projects like this.
Yeah.
For you, like, what is the cause of you being happy with a needle? Because a lot of people online were just saying these people them woke.
I think, I mean, it has to start somewhere, right? And at the end of the day, student groups, these are young people who will end up inheriting, the earth as it is currently, right? They'll be the ones dealing with all the issues of the future. And I think them specifically calling themselves NTU divest and all, and asking for the universities to divest, whatever financial ties that they have with these fossil fuel companies is basically, I mean, it sounds kind of like, it sounds a bit like out there, right? But it's really just saying that they want to untangle the influence that these fossil fuel companies have over the institutions, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that they want the university not to make money or anything like that, right? But they're saying that money can be used to invest in other types of companies that are don't have this track record doing harmful things to the earth, for example, right? Rather than letting these old fossil fuel companies come in and say, hey, this is the way that, looking for alternative energy, this is the direction we should be going. Because they donated money to the university or what. So I think it's a good thing that these young people are sort of seeing it for the longer term and thinking about some kind of actionable plan for university. Because I see a lot of the critics saying, you call for them to divest, then after that, what else goes beyond that? But I think what their point is that you need to untangle all the ties between the institutions and these old fossil fuel companies first. So they actually go down into every single. I think if you go for the S4F's website or Instagram, I remember I saw a chart where they were like literally pointing out in every institution in Singapore, SMU, NUS, NTU, whether there was a person on the board of the school that used to be head up a fossil fuel company. So they go to that level of pointing out like, oh, these are the individual. Not that they don't dox them, but say that the university has had someone from the fossil fuel industry on their board before, and they point out that it's not a very progressive thing when you're thinking about climate change and all that, right?
Yeah.
So if any actionable steps are. If you are saying that they're not suggesting actionable steps, I think they are suggesting actionable steps. Beyond that, I think that there needs to be more discussion. But I'm saying that I think the students are, taking real action against what they perceive to be a problem that they'll have to deal with in the future.
Yeah, because I saw some of them in the comments also pointing out, okay, like what do you expect fossil fuels to just disappear? 2 billion people rely on like fossil fuels and all.
Yeah.
ExxonMobil provides a lot of jobs in Singapore and all.
Yeah.
But I mean, while I was like, hey, actually, that is a good point. But coming back to it, it's like these people, that's like saying, Terence, whatever you say, unless you got a full solution, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Let's say you got an issue with our business or podcast, I'm like, Terence, you shut up. Where's your what happens? We stop doing this and this. No, you shut up. Which is kind of like stupid, right?
Yep.
And this one, all they're asking is questions. Because just now, I mentioned that part of my thoughts on this is also shaped by personal experience. Is let's say we were fucked over by that one streaming platform, right?
Yeah.
By a big company behind it.
Yeah.
Right. If there was an agreement where that same company gets a big grant from like IMDA, where they want to elevate the state of content creation in Singapore with a $50 million fund, I also will be damn cynical.
Yeah.
Because we have been in that position before, talking to some of the bigger ministries where we wanted to kind of like bring together independent creators to get access to some funds, and we were turned away because we are not a big ass company. And you see it time and time again, and it's very annoying. And I think even when you come down to money, if NTU is getting 50-60 million from ExxonMobil, you can assume that when push comes to shove, if there is a hard decision to be made, would you ever bite the hand that feeds?
Yeah.
It does play on people.
Yeah.
So I think it's good that they're asking these sort of questions, because even on the website, the ExxonMobil, their press release, they did say they will, apply their expertise to advance global research efforts in lower emission technology in 5 areas. Converting biomass to emission fuels, carbon capture, turning methane into hydrogen, and they talk about training homegrown carbon circular economy experts. And it's that same thing you see over and over again. You outsource all this learning and expertise to this big ass company. There are so many startups in Singapore trying to do like sustainable work with technology that could do with the funding. So I think it's good that they're asking these questions. And they shouldn't be ridiculed, man.
Yeah, I mean, people online are saying like, oh, did they type out these angry things on the iPhone? And then, when was the last time you took a holiday and took selfies and all that?
Oh, someone said they went to look at the people behind all these things and they say, traveling to Western countries.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, fuck you lah, okay?
Yeah.
You want to do something good, it's that same thing, right? If you want to do charitable work, you need to lead a very charitable life.
Maybe Mother Teresa.
You need to be Mother
Or
Teresa.
even better.
Yeah, that's right. If you talk about poverty and all, you cannot like buy an iPhone. La.
Yeah.
If you talk about hawker prices, you need to be low. You cannot eat at a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just annoying.
Yeah.
And I mean, these students, just keep doing it, man.
Yeah. And again, the headline from the mainstream media kind of paints what the actions in a very different light, right?
Yeah.
About protesting this establishing of this thing on the campus, right?
Yeah.
When I think that they're really, they're asking the basic questions that should be asked anytime there's this kind of notorious, slightly more a company with more notoriety, right, in the space, investing money in the university.
Yeah. And I mean, like right now, the word protest is such a loaded word.
Yeah.
By putting it in the title, you're almost painting them to be these sort of like fucking disruptive protesters.
Yeah.
Which is also not fair to them. If you just search protests on CNA, the things that come up are, Israel faces global outcry over Rafah strike, the university campus protests. There's so much like hardcore protest, and this is just almost them asking a question.
Because I think one of the things they're asking for is also more student involvement and transparency in the partnership.
Yeah.
Which it can't be a bad thing, right? Having more student involvement.
Yeah.
So it's just, go NTU students.
Yeah, exactly. Go NTU students.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool. Are you inspired by this?
Yeah, man.
This act of defiance, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, life will shit on you when you get older. So while you have optimism, just keep it burning, man.
Keep it burning.
Yeah, and always try to just, if you have something you care about, as long as you're not disruptive, you're not hurting people, just speak up, man. Speak up.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
All right. So, speaking of being disruptive or hurting people, any one-shot comments to that?
Yes, I do.
That have, do the opposite, soothe your soul a little bit.
Yeah, it soothes my soul. I don't know whether it'll soothe your soul. So it's a comment on Reddit on our latest episode 530 by Chess the Flash.
Yep.
I'm not a frequent Reddit commenter, but have you read this comment?
No.
Okay, so had a good laugh at the Kate Middleton portrait segment. Terrence is like that one friend in every group who can never give a straightforward answer. I appreciate Harish for being very down-to-earth and genuine, while Terrence acts superior and tries to provoke Harish at every chance he gets. So Terrence, is another reason to reflect on your general behavior and tone. I'm just saying, it's just a comment. It's just a comment. Take what you may.
Hi, Auntie. Hi, Harish's mom who wrote that comment.
Yo, if my mom can figure out Reddit, right, I'll be damn proud of myself also. Yeah, Chess the Flash. Thank you for voicing out my inner monologues many times. Terrence, I'm not even going to ask you for a response.
No need to respond. It's okay. People know the value. We're literally just talking about the value of asking questions. Just asking questions.
Yeah, but apparently you don't give straightforward answers. People ask you questions, but you always go on this roundabout merry-go-round.
My answers are very nuanced.
Oh, very nuanced. Yes. Yeah.
I don't live in a world of superlatives.
Terrence, it's okay. You don't need to get like super defensive or anything. It's just let it sit.
Hi, Auntie. Shout out to you and your comment for Harish.
Next time you see her, you just say Chess the Flash and she's like, oh, you know.
I got found out.
Oh, yeah. I got, yeah. But that's my one-shot comment.
Yeah. Cool. I just wanted to point out a series of comments, right, that about our last podcast as well, talking about the Singapore Airlines incident. Actually, I think we get a lot of contrarian, I wouldn't say contrarian, as in differing opinions about Singapore Airlines handling of the turbulence incident. I think we took a much more, could have done better kind of role, especially when it came to communications. But people, like Nicholas Gerard on YouTube was saying, SIA did a great job communicating with the public, providing timely and accurate updates as need to be, instead of the media, which went to the frenzy, while seemed to communicate more frequently. The media's information seemed exaggerated or inflated or inaccurate in certain ways.
And that drop of 6,000 feet into
correct, yeah. And then from a branding angle, Tony Fernandez is always in the spotlight, unlike SIA's Goh Chun Pong, who keeps a lower profile. So they, like he's saying, it's fine that they didn't make as many. He didn't make as many public statements. And another one is Harsh Pillai also talking about. To be fair to SQ and the CEO, he is probably doing all that is needed on the ground in Bangkok. So I think, people are rightly pointing out maybe the situation is that the CEO is busy on the ground tending to, what needs to be tended to, the people there, the medical requirements, the medevac requirements and things like that. And doesn't have time to make that many statements, right? It's not a national level crisis that we're talking about, like COVID or something, where they need to come out every hour, make a statement or things like that, which it's a fair point. Point. I mean, I ain't never been in the aviation industry, so I wouldn't understand the intricacies that go behind planning something like that. But for you, when you read people saying this, what do you think?
I mean, some fair points there. But I also feel just from, very anecdotally, my own time there, but which was also years ago. But even as an external observer now, I would imagine SIA's approach being very like, okay, you know how sometimes like the government, sometimes they are not the most transparent.
Yeah.
And sometimes for good reason. But it's almost so that like it's taking like, okay, let us figure stuff out, and we don't owe you an explanation for everything, which is fair to a certain extent. And I think SIA would be more that way. I also agree that, Tony Fernandes, he's a much more public figure, and that's part of his brand.
Yep.
But SIA, it feels like a older school way of working in this newer environment. I still feel that there could be more comms, more... Yeah, I was also surprised because like they're getting a lot of plaudits. Like recently, there was just a CNA article talking about, it's a case study in PR management.
I mean, people pointed out something that I didn't realize, right? Because I just looked past it, that they were numbering their Facebook updates, like literally something as simple as that. They're saying update number something, and I think that also helps people see that there's a progression of updates, as opposed to just ad hoc updates that you can't specifically reference, right? So maybe it's not at the Tony Fernandes level, but maybe it's really probably better than what some people are expecting, right?
Yeah, but do you completely feel like what you said also, like your mind has changed, or you still feel like?
I mean, no, I think people are raising good points also. That maybe they are tending to things on the ground, right? But the fact that there were literally passengers shouting at media about how they've been ignored by Singapore and all that, just for those maybe that 1-2 days was just not a great look, And maybe it's just I think over time we will see more post-mortems of what happened, of the whole incident, and even the whole response from SIA. So,
are we too woke? Is it we too needy?
Maybe too demanding upfront.
Too demanding. Yeah. I still think like I was surprised that they have been lauded as like a case study in PR.
That one I find out it's all a bit early to be like saying, "Wow, well done." Because the thing about it, the investigation of what actually happened,
we don't know.
We don't know yet.
We don't know.
They're still analyzing all the black box footage, black box recordings and all that, right?
Yeah.
So before we put our hands together and clap for them first, we got to like understand what's going on.
Yeah, and I mean there've been a lot of articles talking about SIA's exceptional crew service and people tending to the passengers and all, which I mean is good. It seems to be all verified, but it feels like it's just the machinery at work. Because I mean SIA is such a reputable brand.
Yeah.
It is in Singapore's best interest.
Correct.
So just felt like, so fast case study already.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Cool. And what about your one Shiok Thing?
My one Shiok Thing is just a show that I've started on after finishing The Bear. Another show that I started on that I think not too long ago. It came out not too long ago. I mean, technically it came out not too long ago, but actually it's based on a series from the 90s. Is X-Men 97 on Disney Plus.
It's good.
Yeah, because it's really picks up where the X-Men series left off from all those donkey years ago. I don't even think I actually watched the full X-Men series back in the day. Like I watched maybe a season or two and then fucking loved it, right? Everyone did, right? But it was so iconic, the opening intro and then the characters all. That everyone loved X-Men at that point in time. Now, yeah, they just pick up where that left off. There's a little,
Recap.
recap of what it was about, and you just pick up and yeah, then you're reminded of how different those characters were portrayed versus what we know as these Marvel characters today, lah. And it's a very different group dynamic and all also. But the cartoon itself is pretty good, lah.
Yeah, I've heard very good reviews. Like, can get quite emotional also.
Yeah, and it has it's a lot of elements of it are reflection of the times that we live in also, lah. Yeah, so it's something.
How long is each episode?
Half an hour.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So yeah, maybe if you're very into this woke stuff or something, you will like X-Men 97.
Wow, that means I fucking love it,
You
man.
love it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Cool. My one Shiok Thing is a podcast episode by The Journal, which is, the collaboration between Wall Street Journal and Gimlet.
Yeah.
Where every day or two they have like a 15 to 30 minute episode that just goes deep on one topic. It could be like, some Trump's lawsuit and stuff. But the recent episode is an interview they did with Paris Hilton and her husband Carter Riem at a Wall Street Journal conference.
Yeah.
So, like, I think last time, you would hear people say stuff like, wow, Paris Hilton, yeah, she appears dumb, but she's actually damn smart. And I totally, agree also. Like, for her to be that dumb to that extent, there's definitely a brain behind it. And like this one, she actually now apparently runs 1111, which is a media company worth 1.1 billion.
Yeah.
Her products that she has had a hand in launching has grossed over 4 billion over the past 4 years. And like when she talks, right, she even says that that persona that was part of A Simple Life and all that I propagated for a long time was really like a put on.
Yeah.
I've always been a closet nerd and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh shit. Of course, they were them lovey-dovey on stage. A bit like, just calm down.
Oh, it's a video.
No, there was a video version, but I listened to the podcast version.
I see.
And her husband is like some founder of this VC fund that has spotted 13 unicorns. And he was like, oh, maybe it should be M14 because you're the 14th unicorn. And that's a bit much. Yeah. But I was like, hey, shit, this Paris Hilton. The way she talks, she was like a social media influencer before it was a thing.
Yeah.
She was one of the first reality TV stars. And when you have that big a following, you understand commerce. Yeah, it's very powerful and it seems like she's fucking killing it.
Yeah.
So interesting to hear. And the way she talks also is not like what you would remember from the reality show version of her. And part of me is like, oh shit, she really, what you see really was like a persona. But interesting.
The amazing thing is Gen Zs probably don't know Paris Hilton at all. She really was like, her peak was the 2000s, right?
Yeah.
And she just disappeared.
And she was like the epitome of a bimbo,
Yeah.
Right? People were making fun of her, caricature almost.
Yeah.
But
very,
no, man.
very, and generational wealth, right?
Yeah.
The heiress to a fortune.
Yeah. So of course, like whenever I hear stats, running a company is worth 1.1 billion, I always take it with a pinch of salt also.
Yeah.
But she's clearly not the person that you know from those reality TV shows.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Cool. Yeah. So that's it. If you want to help us out, tell someone who has not heard this podcast about us, follow us on social media, hit that subscribe button, follow button, leave us a review.
And a live show on 8th of June, 7:30 p.m. Tickets only on
At the link in the show notes?
At the link in the show notes, that's right.
Only on what?
No, initially we launched it on Telegram, right? Yeah. But now we put it in our show notes so you can purchase tickets there.
Yeah, get your tickets. They might not last very much longer.
Yeah.
And if you want to work with us, just check us out at ministryoffunny.com. Cool. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Peace.